I was once the hope of this pack. Until I was betrayed. Now I must face my deepest fear. I've fallen in love with my enemy. Chapter 39, Almost Caught. Heir P. Oh, the Alpha Wayne's gaze didn't waver from mine as those words left my mouth. He was sure it was Shay. Not a single trace of surprise was visible in his eyes, as if he knew the only Luna I would mean would be Shay. He smirked at me, knowing I was testing him and his faith on his mate. If I was at his place and told that Alpha was the traitor, I could have a suspicion that it was Daniel. Right. Our bond is not enough strong. My faith on Daniel is not enough. After all, I don't love him. That's what I had told his father the other day. Now I think my decision is true. Where's she now? He asked me as if I was meant to know. I raised an eyebrow at him. I'm not her caretaker. She can burn in the depths of hell. But I was wondering where she could be. She was that long in this pack and I'm sure she had something planned, but now our plan must have failed. Where she could be now. I think we should send someone to search for her. He told me. I'm not going. I told him firmly. I have many other things to do than go searching for her betraying traitor face. And I think I should call it night now. With that I walked out of the room, leaving Alpha to make his decisions. I made my way towards my room. I have spent most of my time in our house. That is Dave and Nine and now Manny's too. I think for next few days. I have to stay here. I'd be easy to keep an eye on traitors from here. The room was silent till I waited for sun to rise while I cleared the jumble of thoughts in my head. This was not settled. Shay and Miles. Though Miles is not against this pack, I'm sure he is hiding something. Attack on Daniel was something that would convince him to capture the old man. I'd plan on asking some questions from him. For now I have to sort things out with one person. I still haven't asked what happened to Dave and how he got injured. How Kyle ended up in hospital. What type of attack was that? And I need to visit to Kyle. Manny and her pup can't be forgotten. I have to ask her mom to pay a visit. To take care of my best friend since I won't be there with her with everything going on. And then appearance of Dave. I have planned it, but now somehow I have to stall the mission of finding him. Daniel needs to stop. Or at least, slow the pace. And lastly, a meeting. When sun rose up the next morning, one of my predictions was correct. Daniel was hell-bent to find Dave. He was barking orders at warriors to search throughout the territory and ordered Eric to contact other packs for whereabouts my brother. I was happy that he had started taking things seriously, but for this single time. I don't want him to be serious. My first instinct was to call Dave, but instead of for Manny asking her to hide him. She was panting and I told myself she was jogging when I called. Hey Daniel. I walked inside living room where Daniel was slouched on couch. I felt bad for making him worry for Dave. But the secret is meant to be kept. And if I told him that I went to save Dave, he will lose 999 of 1,000 cells in his brain. His head snapped to me and his heart rate suddenly picked up. It felt a kind of weird. Most of girls would like anyone telling them that they are beautiful, but I was extremely uncomfortable with his train of thoughts, never having faced any circumstance like this. What are you doing here? He was of course sitting and worrying about Dave. Again, feeling of guilt washed over me but quickly surpassed the feeling. It was not the time to feel guilty. I wanted to distract his mind from all this mess and I knew what exactly would help, but then it would be giving him ideas and false hope. Just thinking. I sat beside him and I could hear what a chaos his mind was. At least he was no longer thinking about Dave, but fear still lingered in back of his mind. Not wanting to prompt any conversation about Dave, I decided to talk about another topic like Shay. It was a really selfish move, but I couldn't help myself. About Shay. I asked and he turned his head so fast that I thought I heard a crack. What? He asked with a frown. Come on, Daniel. You didn't forget her that fast now, did you? I mean, she's your mate after all. I shrugged with every intention of getting on his nerves. What would it be missing with Alpha? He narrowed his eyes at me. I don't know where she is. I widened my eyes in fake surprise. What are you saying, Daniela? I forgot you don't give a crap about your mate like most werewolves do. She must be wishing right now she had got another mate instead of you. At a fast speed, Daniel pinned me on the couch as he hovered above me. I was lying flat on my back with my feet still dangling while his big frame was covering mine small one. I think I got the alpha really angry. "You're my mate, Sarah." "She is not. Never was." A deep growl erupted from his throat that sent chills to my spine just the way or a little less frightened than the blood devil's words do. I stared into his eyes, turning back as his wolf was taking control of his human form, but he successfully pushed it back. A flash of doubt in his eyes appeared and disappeared fast. He dipped his head to press his lips against my forehead and then moving them to my cheeks and kiss corner of my lips. I was expecting him to kiss my lips, but his lips went lower to my neck. My whole body tensed and I pushed him away with a force that threw him across the room, 10 feet away from the couch. His body slid against the floor and he came to a halt after his back struck the wall with a brutal force, making him wince. I sat up with wide eyes. That was not supposed to happen. I probably raised suspicion. He can't know I'm a vampire. It was not the time for him to know. "Daniel," I mumbled and rushed to his side. "I'm so sorry, Daniel. I didn't mean to." I helped him stand up, cursing myself in my brain. But I didn't want him to mock me. "No, I'm sorry. I shouldn't have done that." I murmured an apology with a look of hurt on his face. I slid my hands to his waist and hugged him. His froze, but he returned my hug. "I don't know how that happened. I just pushed you. I panicked thinking you were going to mock me, Daniel, but I can't do that now. I need time and space to think about it." I tried to reassure him. It seemed to relax him and I sighed in relief. "It's okay, Sarah," he told me. "But how were you able to do that? With so much force?" That was not something I wanted to talk about, but I worked quickly on an excuse. "Do you think my powers are coming back?" He stared at me for a few seconds with a surprised look on his face. He was actually contemplating my lie. It was sort of convincing though. "Werewolves have strength. Can it be?" he mumbled. "I only think of one other reason for this. You've grown very weak. Like a paper that my slight push sent you flying across the room, but your muscles say otherwise. I think I should talk about it to Dad." "Yeah, you should do that." I nodded my head. "Alpha Wayne will not tell him that I'm a vampire. I can rely on him in that case, though. I have to go to check on Manny. You stay here and talk to your dad. I will be back soon." I told him and headed towards the door. "I will come with you." I groaned internally. "I will be fine, Daniel. You don't need to. You are not going out there alone. It's dangerous." "I will take Eric or Ethan with me." "Don't worry, Daniel. You should focus on finding Dave instead." I used Dave's excuse to save Dave. He seemed reluctant but agreed. I only had to drag Ethan with me to car. "Go and check on Kyle. I'm going to a pregnant she-wolf and believe me, you won't want to be there," I told him. He instantly understood my drift and grimaced, scurrying away. When he was gone, I ran toward my destination to talk to, hoping he was not sucking faces with Manny. He won't be taking that risk when I have already told Manny to hide him. When I reached there, I was happy that my prediction was right. Dave was nowhere to be seen. Even his scent was so faint. Manny was sitting on the couch knitting a sweater so carelessly that you could never guess she was not alone in the house. "What are you doing?" I asked her. She seemed startled at my entrance as she jumped on her seat with shock written on her face. I chuckled. It was a hilarious sight. "You scared me," she whispered, placing a hand on her chest. I smirked at her. "Where is Dave?" I asked, looking around. "In basement," she whispered. "Call him," I ordered, and she raised an eyebrow at me. I rolled my eyes. "Please call him my sweet friend." I corrected my sentence. She nodded with a smug smile on her face and her eyes became glassy, telling me she was mind linking with him. Not after a minute. Dave was entered through the door. He looked fresh. "Hey sis. What brings you here?" I wanted to ask you what exactly had happened. He frowned at me. "I mean how you were kidnapped. What was Kyle's role in that?" He nodded. "I was on patrol in the woods when I heard some voices. Those voices. I can't remember them anymore. They were talking about something, but before I could even react, a rogue jumped on my back. He was followed by another one. The voices stopped and another wolf joined, a she-wolf. She was not a rogue, but I could smell rogue on her. She must be mate of a rogue. They had me pinned. I was unable to move and a rogue in human form came. I had never seen him before. He had a knife with him and was about to attack me, but Kyle jumped out of nowhere. The knife cut him. We tried to fight, but I was injected with something. I blacked out right after that. For most of time I was wondering whether they had captured Kyle, but I was relieved when you told me he was in hospital. So that was what had happened. Many things made sense to me then, and mine became clear. Now I know why he was staring at me and Daniel that day. Kai had teamed up with Shay. But why? Chapter 40 Mistakes and Regrets. Sarah's POV. Hide yourself properly. Daniel is out looking for you. He seemed so tense. I told Dave while I was about to leave to complete a very important task ahead of me. Dave smiled with his eyes lighting up. I raised an eyebrow. I knew he was not that bad. Especially now that she's away. Dave said. That doesn't change the fact that he was a jerk. I argued. Daniel was not that good. I find myself forgiving him but not completely accepting him. A part of me will always resent him for what he did. Why talk about past? He murmured, aware that I was not going to budge. His sudden inclination towards Daniel troubled me. You are taking his side. I narrowed my eyes at him. No, Sarah. In just asking you to forget past and move on. You can't live with Daniel for the rest of your life if you continue to be like this. Like what? I spat at him. Unforgiving, he said without flinching. I have forgiven him. I told him flatly that you are not going to compromise. Something you used to do a year ago. He mumbled. The argument was getting heated. I didn't agree with Dave. Why should I compromise? That Sirad eyed a year ago when he abandoned me. If he thinks that he can get the same girl, he is wrong. You can't live your life like this. I can and I will. I growled and left. How could Dave say that? He was not the one whose mate left and found another one. It was heartbreaking for me. Weak mate bond or not. Daniel was a jerk. I can't forget. When I reached the hospital, it was blanketed under silence. Kyle's room was not far away. When I entered, he was staring out of the window with a faraway look on his face. He didn't notice me enter. I stood leaning against wall waiting for him to look in my direction. I wondered why he did that. Blue Moon Pack was a strong pack. Did he want to take over Moonstone Pack and become stronger? But that was like stepping foot on fire. Accomplice with rogue and stabbing yourself with silver are the same things. Why would an intelligent and powerful I Kyle do a mistake like that? He sighed and finally his eyes landed on me. They widened in surprise. To my agent extraordinaire, Madeleine Nilben. Heartfelt thanks for your unfailing patience, enthusiasm. He smiled at me, which I returned with one of my own which didn't any radiate any kind of happiness. Hey Kyle, how are you feeling now? I asked, walking to him and took a seat on chair. Better than before. I leaned back on the chair. So now you are good to give me some answers. I smiled at him. He smiled at me hesitantly and his eyes flashed with doubt and fear. He knew he was wrong. I'm sure he was expecting I was talking about any other thing. To my agent extraordinaire, Madeleine Nilben. Heartfelt thanks for your unfailing patience, enthusiasm. Yeah. I want to know what exactly happened. I leaned forward, cocking my head to side, watching his reaction. After Daniel attacked me, I went to forest for a run. There I found some rogues attacking Dave. They were going to attack him with silver knife, but I came in between them and got injured instead. He pointed at his gash. And then they started attacking me. I was so weak. I didn't know what happened to Dave, but Daniel told me that he was kidnapped. I nodded my head and leaned back. Did you see any she-wolf there? I asked him, narrowing my eyes. His eyes widened ever so slightly that I almost missed it. To my agent extraordinaire, Madeleine Nilben. Heartfelt thanks for your unfailing patience, enthusiasm. He quickly recovered from shock. No, I didn't pay much attention. Why didn't you tell me that Daniel was your mate? He asked, fluently changing the topic. I'm not answerable to you. I spat at him. He seemed startled. His anger grew. Before he could say anything, I continued. You know what, Kyle? I have my version of story here. Let me put it like this. I stood up from chair and started walking around the room. You rushed out of my room to the woods where you met someone. Someone like Shay. I ignored how his eyes widened. By then you knew she was not Daniel's true mate. When you confronted her about this, you came to know that she was deceiving this pack and you joined her. Unfortunately, Dave was nearby, so you decided to play like a knight in shining armor and inflicted those wounds on you so that no one can point a finger at brave Alpha. I stopped and faced him. Am I right? I raised an eyebrow. He was looking at me with shock and fear. What I don't understand is, why would you do that? I asked and took my seat again. He stared at me for a couple of minutes. He had a conflicted look on his face. I read his expressions clearly. Don't lie to me, Kyle, I said darkly. He pursed his lips together. He very well knew that it was the end for him. With a sigh, he decided to tell me his intentions. I was not thinking straight. He lowered his eyes, fixing them on covers. I like you, Sir. I like you so much. I want you to be my mate. When Daniel told me that he was your mate, I thought that you will go to him and I will have no chance at all. I was angry, frustrated and desperate. I wanted you at every cost. You are perfect, beautiful, smart, wise, everything. I met Shay before. She knew that I was infatuated to you, so she offered me a favor to help her, but on a condition. She wanted me to kill Daniel and take over his pack. I didn't agree to her then, but when I ran to Forest that day, I met Shay again. She was with a rogue. She offered me again and I contemplated it. Dave was there and I panicked. I thought he heard everything and attacked him. He didn't know it was me, but when a rogue was to attack Dave with knife, I tried to save him because I knew how much you loved your brother. I got injured and then injected a sedative into his bloodstream. I didn't want him to tell you that I was behind all this. It was just I was not thinking straight. I realized my mistake when I woke up here in hospital. I wanted to tell you everything. Shay paid me a visit and she said that you will hate me if I ever told you that. I listened to her and didn't tell you anything. It was my fault that your brother is in danger. I'm really sorry. I will do everything to find him. Please forgive me, Sierra. I nodded once he finished. All of that made sense to me. It was weird to hear that he did all of that for me. Two apologies by to Alphys. One apologized for wanting me and other for not wanting me. I don't know with who will I end up with what I live alone for eternity. Not the time to think about this. I will forgive you on one condition, Kyle. His head snapped to my direction, eyes filled with hope. What? He asked, curious. You will leave this pack and never come here again. You will never go against this pack. I told him calmly. His face contorted hurt as the light in his eyes diminished to dull darkness. Kyle, this is only infatuation. You'll get over it. Don't forget that you will find your mate one day. I told him with a smile. But I want only you. He mumbled, pleading me with his eyes. This situation is same as a year ago with Daniel. He was in love with Shay and rejected me. But now when I've returned, he wants to be with me. Mating bond is so much stronger than this infatuation. Don't take decisions in haste, Kyle. Wait for her. She will definitely make your world happy. He didn't say anything because he knew there was no chance for him. He had completely lost. Not that this was his game to play. Okay. He nodded. I will leave today. With that, he sprang out of the bed, slightly wincing. I stood up, startled. You are not completely healed. I tried to reach for him, but he stepped back. This pain is tolerable. I will just have to get away from an intolerable pain now. He smiled sadly at me. Stay here, don't follow me until I'm out of your reach. He instructed me. But don't forget, I really like you, Sierra. I watched him walk out of the room. There was a slight tug in my heart as feeling of guilt washed over me, but I shook my head. He will find his mate and then he will thank me. I sat on the chair with a sigh. At least one matter is settled. Kyle is gone. He will leave this territory. I will try not to miss him because he was fun to be with. I chuckled at the memory of how we made Daniel jealous on that trip in mall with Will. He's an amazing man. I just hope he finds an amazing mate. Best of luck, Kyle. Chapter 41, Crazy Old Man Sarah's Key. Oh, fie. To say the old man was not happy by my benevolence would be understatement of the year. He was glaring at me with dark-hooded eyes, and I stared back at him coolly, not even slightly intimidated by his old self. When Miles was brought here on my orders, he was confused beyond limits. His confusion cleared when Alpha Wayne started blaming him. It was only the smug smile on my face that cleared all his bewilderment. "Let me talk him alone, Alpha," I said calmly. Alpha Wayne seemed unsure but nodded anyway and walked out of room, his face still flushed with anger. I sat on the comfortable chair while Old Man was tied to his old wooden chair, which would crash if he moved vigorously, which I was sure he was going to do, and I will be enjoying the view. "Why are you doing this?" he asked with an angry snarl on his face. "I don't know. You tell me." I smiled at him, a sweet sick smile. He narrowed his eyes at me. "I don't know what you are talking about. Release me this moment. To my agent extraordinaire, mythical, heartfelt thanks for your unfailing patience, enthusiasm." "Can't do that. Alpha's orders." I shook my head and blinked my eyes innocently at him. He growled at me. "You bit, oh, an oath-swearing old man. Little innocent girl sitting in front of you." He clenched his jaw tightly. "You know what I was thinking, Miles?" I leaned back on my chair and shifted my eyes to see him. "What?" "I was thinking that you are an old wolf. Not many of your age survive. Yet here you are." I could hear anger in his breath. "The credit goes to your ability to see in things. You have this special power." I sat straight, looking dead into his eyes. "So tell me, Miles, where is your brother?" He seemed startled by my tone. Fear flashed in his eyes, but he was quick to recover. "I don't have any brother," he argued. "Heather, to my agent extraordinaire, mythical, heartfelt thanks for your unfailing patience, enthusiasm." "No, so you were saying that you are the only child?" I stared at him. "Yes, everyone knows that I'm only child. Or maybe no one knows that you are not the only child. What's wrong with you?" "Don't shout, old man. I don't want you to put strain on your lungs and die. Not before getting my answers." "What answers?" "You know, I was taking a casual run in the woods. A harmless run to freshen myself up. And you know what I saw there?" I feigned enthusiasm. "There was this palace in the middle of woods. It was heavily guarded by what I can call rogues." His eyes widened in surprise. I continued. "There I met an old man. A very old man who was a rogue. And when I smelt his blood, it was exactly same as that of you. Isn't it interesting?" He remained silent and pursed his lips together. I sat there staring at him for next 5 minutes with a smirk, letting him soak in all the information. Never in my life I could have thought that Miles could have a brother who was a rogue. When everything downed in, he looked at me. He growled at me and started shaking vigorously to loosen the ropes tying him down. The poo chair shook, and the next moment, there was a crack and his struggle died as the chair collapsed. He fell, and I didn't take a second to slam my fist to the back of his head, successfully knocking him out. I walked out of the room, leaving unconscious Miles inside, and called Eric. "To my agent extraordinaire, mythical, heartfelt thanks for your unfailing patience, enthusiasm. We are going to the woods. Get Wilson and Ethan with you." I spoke fast and hung up. Then I called Alpha Wayne. "To my agent extraordinaire, mythical, heartfelt thanks for your unfailing patience, enthusiasm. I'm going to woods with Eric, Wilson and Ethan. It is important." He didn't take 2 seconds to give me green flag. "Let's pay Miles' brother's second visit," I said to myself. I was standing at the opening of woods with Eric and Ethan, while Wilson had already headed inside. "You 3 go inside. I will be here waiting for you. If you don't return in next 10 minutes, I'm going to call help." They nodded their head. "Listen carefully, there's a house in the middle of these woods. More like cottage. There are guards everywhere. You have to be cautious. They all are rogues." They were surprised as I told them. "First you will kill the guards away from cottage silently, and then attack those in front. Wilson will go inside by window in first floor. You all are going to enter. Find the old man and don't kill him." They nodded again. They had same question in their head. Alpha Wayne's orders. I answered for them. Since Dave is not in the position of Beta, Alpha Wayne has asked me to take that place. Just go, I said, and they left. I could hear them say something, but I was busy with my own work. I took the other way and with my super speed, reached the cottage much before then entering from back door. It was much easier to kill other 2 wolves. When I entered inside there were 2 young wolves, and I killed them instantly. Come here. I motioned for the werewolf to come with me. God, you are so fast. Dave countered. Shut up and get inside. Lock up yourself. You know what to do. I scolded. Yes, Mum. He muttered and went inside the old room. Perfect. I went outside and hid myself behind bushes watching Eric and Deeth and killing guards at front door. Wilson jumped inside the window with a careful stance. He wanted him to hurry because there was no danger inside. Only 1 old wolf and Dave. I looked at my phone checking. Only 7 minutes had passed. I had to reach them before they decided to head back to woods. When Eric and Deethan were inside, I jumped out of the bushes and followed them, waiting at door to head footsteps. After about half a minute, I heard them and opened the door to enter. Eric was standing in front of me, his eyes widened when they fell on me. What are you doing here? He asked in surprise. I was worried about you. Is everything all right? I asked, walking in without any care. My eyes searched for the old man. Yeah, but there is something really interesting, he said with fascination. I stopped and looked at him with a frown. Dave. He's here. He told me. I had to widen my eyes dramatically and open my mouth wide. To my agent extraordinaire, Mythical Noble. Heartfelt thanks for your unfailing patience, enthusiasm. I squeaked. Was I overreacting? Maybe yes. Come here. He pulled me with him towards the large room where Dave was sitting on the couch, coughing. He looked like a prisoner or more like a beggar. When he saw me, he stood up with a small smile on his face. I wanted to laugh at his form because I knew he had done that to himself. I launched myself at him and hugged him tightly. He caught me returning my tight embrace with one of my own. He was squeezing me hard and I returned favor. We were fighting who could hug tighter. I didn't use all of my strength. I didn't save him to kill him. I missed you, I told him in a chopped voice. His eyes held amusement. I didn't, he said, and I scowled at him, punching his shoulder lightly. His 3 friends laughed in background. Are you okay? I asked with fake concern. My head is hurting. My legs feel lifeless and I feel so tired. He complained, taking his seat back on the couch. I rolled my eyes. Of course you'll feel tired after spending whole night with your mate. Everything will be fine, I told him in fake sympathy. I hope to sis. How's Manny? And my cup? Healthy, I answered him, smiling slowly. I want to meet Manny, he said, standing up. Wilson came forward. Relax, mate. You need to rest for now. We will take you to Manny. You can spend plenty of time with her later. Don't exert yourself now. He can't live without Manny. I think we should search this house, I said to them. You stay here, I told Dave. And where is the old man? I had almost forgotten about him. Oh, Wilson chuckled nervously. I raised an eyebrow at him. I might have struck him on head too hard that he blacked out. He said sheepishly, werewolves. At least he's alive. Right, I asked him. Maybe, he mumbled. I didn't know what to feel about it. I wanted demand to die, but before that I had to extract some information from him. He exactly knew who was behind this mess. No problem. I shrugged and we went to our directions to search around. I scanned photographs and weapons. There was no surprise when I spotted a bag of weeds at a room full of weapons in basement. I was searching around. I found a room. A beautiful, very beautiful room with a king-sized bed at center covered with blood-red sheet. I was shocked to see that room in basement. There was a bathroom attached to it. To my agent extraordinaire, Mythical Noble. Heartfelt thanks for your unfailing patience, enthusiasm. There was a lavish shower endowed with best technology. It looked extremely beautiful. There were 3 walls and 4th one was a mirror. It was clean and beautiful. Returning to the room, I searched in nightstand finding silk lingerie and boxes with other supply telling me what that room was for. Disgusted, I walked out of it with a sour face. When I closed the door behind me, Wilson was standing there with a smirk on his face. "Don't say a word," I instructed him. He nodded with amusement written all over his face. To my agent extraordinaire, Madeleine Noble, heartfelt thanks for your unfailing patience, enthusiasm. To my agent extraordinaire, Madeleine Noble, heartfelt thanks for your unfailing patience, enthusiasm. I heard Ethan shout. What happened? Has someone attacked us? My senses went in alarm. Wilson rushed upstairs and I followed him. I wanted to use my vampire speed, but decided against it and instead maintained a pace slower than him. Dave was already heading towards a room and we ran him. Eric was heading down the stairs quickly. We all entered a room, a study room, and found Ethan standing behind the desk. What happened? Dave asked. Is everything all right? Ethan shook his head, staring at something in his hand. Take a look at this man, he said, passing something to Dave which looked like a couple of photographs. They passed it over and was the last one to receive the photograph. It was Shay, but she was not alone. There was a man standing at her side who had an arm on her shoulder. They were both smiling at the camera. In next one, they were kissing each other. He was a bulky man with tan skin and long blonde hairs tied at back of his head. The man was rather handsome. He looked like Hulk. Daniel was nothing as compared to this man. Who is he? I asked, perplexed. Cain, Dave answered with a troubled look on his face. Chapter 42, More Secrets Revealed, Series P. OV, who is Cain? I had heard that name before. Maybe swarming in someone's memory, but I didn't remember it anymore. Shay's mate. Dave answered. Shay's mate. I thought he rejected her. To my agent extraordinaire, Madeleine Noble, heartfelt thanks for your unfailing patience, enthusiasm. Mating bond is not so easy to break. Daniel doesn't know it, because we hid this thing from him. But Shay had once escaped to dungeons and spent a night with Cain. After that it must be hard for her to resist him. He told me. I nodded my head. So Shay was. Okay. I get it. She was with her mate and now they are planning to destroy Moonstone Pack for what? Revenge. Cain must be angry that Daniel stole his mate and Shay. She is crazy. No hope from her. She might kill the nicest person on earth and still claim she did the benefit to mankind. So he is doing this to get back Shay, rightfully. Wilson guessed. Daniel's wolf has rejected Shay. I think it's for revenge. I told them what I thought. They seemed to buy my conclusion. Why would Cain believe on her? Eric asked. He was a nice man. He didn't seem like one to. You can't believe anyone. I interrupted him. He nodded his head but still seemed dubious. We will talk about this later. Get these photographs to Daniel and destroy this place. Wilson asked. Blast it. I told him casually. And don't forget the old man. Throw him in same cell as that of Miles. I shouted over my shoulder and walked out of the door. Lift me on your back. To my agent extraordinaire, Madeleine Noble, heartfelt thanks for your unfailing patience, enthusiasm. Wilson gave me a look that said what? I can't run as fast as you. I don't want to be left behind. Just shift into your wolf. Or sit on your back. He nodded his head. Hold on tightly. He shifted and others followed. I held tightly on him as he pierced through the woods and we were out in less than 2 minutes. I got to car and threw some clothes outside. Put on these clothes. I'm going to court Daniel. I shouted and dialed Daniel. He picked on the ring. To my agent extraordinaire, Madeleine Noble, heartfelt thanks for your unfailing patience, enthusiasm. He sounded cheerful. Hey Daniel, what are you doing? Still searching for Dave. We will find him soon, he assured me. I rolled my eyes. We have found Dave. Don't worry. And he's completely fine. I told him. He didn't say anything for a few seconds. I turned around to look at boys. Dave had put on jeans. I called him. He walked to me. Talk to him, I said to Daniel and handed over the phone to Dave. I went inside the car and watched 3 really hot wolves putting on shirts. They had maintained themselves properly. All of them were well endowed with muscles and looked incredibly hot. A growl sounded in my head and I jerked on my seat. My heart thumped inside my chest. I placed a hand on my chest and looked around, but there was no one. Maybe that was just my imagination. I sighed and closed my eyes, leaning back on the seat. I closed my eyes and let my head fall inside, relaxing myself from adrenaline rush. When I opened my eyes, I gasped. There were green eyes glaring back into mine. The only thing separating us was the windshield. My jaw dropped and eyes widened in shock. I could hear every beat of my heart inside my head. Bloody devil, I stammered. He narrowed his beautiful eyes at me. I stared at his perfect face. His pale skin looked so soft and my fingers itched to touch him. But I was not a fool to commit a mistake like that. He will kill me. He didn't say a word and disappeared, as if he was never there. A voice interrupted me. I shook my head to clear my thoughts. I didn't get out of car because I was still terrified. My heart was still pounding. What? I shouted shakily from inside the car. Look at this. There are dead rogues here. Wilson shouted. I didn't get out of the car. When they noticed this, they returned to the car. Won't you take a look at that? There are more than 20 rogues dead. Most of their heads are detached from the bodies. Eric said, still outside. No, let us get out of here. I'm not driving. I sat on the passenger seat. They exchanged looks but nodded and got inside. But what about those bodies? Leave them. Ask someone to deliver them inside cottage and then blast the thing. I told him with gritted teeth. I knew who killed them. Only one person has power to kill so many werewolves simultaneously. And just the thought frightens me. I closed my eyes and leaned my head back. Growling, I went to back seat. Dave returned to car. Eric took the passenger seat, and Dave sat on my side. I curled at his side, clutching to his arm. Are you okay? Dave asked me. I nodded and hid my head in his chest. I can't forget the day before I came here. He had demonstrated to me what he did to those who dared to leave him or those who did not do his work. He had killed that vampire in front of my eyes. It was so horrible and I will never want to have that fate. I'm fine, I whispered. Dave put an arm around me and I felt safe. What happened? I heard him ask. I don't know. Maybe she saw dead bodies of those rogues. It was a really disgusting sight. Whoever killed them was really brutal. Those people must be really powerful to kill those rogues like that. Wilson answered. I didn't want to tell him that it was only one person who killed them all. There are several things about Blood Devil which will make your hair stand. I have been taught to face every situation. I've been trained for over a year to be a spy of the Empire. I'm taught to fight and escape according situations. I have to use my mind first before acting on anything. But presence of Blood Devil is intimidating. I can't forget those green eyes. They are beautiful, but the coldness inside them makes you feel cold inside. His gloved hands burn everything they touch. Everyone fears him. In all the realms his name is Name of Devil. That's why he's called Blood Devil and not Vampire King. Werewolf King and Blood Devil are not in best terms, but Werewolf King knows not to mess with the dangerous bloodsucker. Not many people know about existence of Vampire King and Werewolf King. I came to know about it from Blood Devil before he sent me to find the heir. He clearly said that I don't have to be caught by Werewolf King or I will be disowned from Vampire Kingdom and whole blame of the deceit will be on my shoulders while Blood Devil will drink his favorite blood group. I've never seen Werewolf King, I don't want to. For now I have to find that heir. But I'm stalling it because I don't want to know now. I fear if it's Dave or Manny, I will not be able to say the name to High and Mighty King. He will kill my loved ones and I can't allow that to happen. When we reached the pack house, Dave gave me a worried look and I assured him with a weak smile. He was tackled by Daniel and was bombarded with questions. I went to my room feeling exhausted, not noticing Daniel following me. I only acknowledged his presence when he sat beside me on the bed. Are you all right? He asked, placing a hand on my shoulder. I nodded my head with closed eyes. He put an arm around my waist and buried his head in my hairs. You will not go anywhere from now. I was so worried about you. What if rogues had attacked you? I frowned at his protectiveness. I'm fine, and I wanted to save Dave. I know, but you could have at least talked to me about it. It was just a hunch. I had this feeling that Dave was in the woods, so I asked Tarek not to call other packs and search inside the territory. You did the right thing, but don't leave me worried. After Dave, I thought I would lose you too. He pulled away, looking into my eyes. But instead you got Dave back. No loss. I smiled at him. His eyes dipped down to my lips, and before I knew, he was kissing me. It was a soft, slow kiss, but I didn't respond with images of blood devils still fresh inside my brain. Daniel pulled away. He left the room. I didn't miss hurt flashing in his eyes. It made me feel guilty, but not too much. I just hope Dave talks to him about that cane die. And now I have to see Miles and his whatever brother is there. I hope the old man doesn't die of elevated blood pressure because I'm so tempted to kill him. Brothers were catching up, not by hugging each other but by pouncing at each other. Gods had to pry them apart before they killed each other, and I was watching the drama without popcorns. Hey Miles, won't you introduce me to your brother? I asked, standing outside the cell. Their heads snapped in my direction. Miles glared at me. Shut up. It's your fault, his brother said. Not my fault. Miles argued. Of course it was your fault. You didn't hide your tracks carefully or I'd not have been caught. I was careful. It was your fault. How was it my fault? I didn't do anything wrong, so it was your fault. It was your fault. Shut up, I shouted, and both silenced. Shame on you old men, fighting like 5-year-olds. I shook my head. They glared at me, and FYI, mister, I trailed off. Hudson, Miles' brother offered. Mr. Hudson, I must say I came to know about Miles from you actually. I could have never guessed Miles was in this if your rogues had not kidnapped Dave. I had not gone to follow him and not smelt your blood. Your scent was familiar to that of Miles. A rogue and a member of Moonstone pack. That's how Miles was caught. Sir, I gave him the explanation. His cheeks reddened and I smirked. So let's start friends. I leaned to Wall. Tell me about yourself. We are brothers. Hudson is my elder brother. He was thrown out of the pack many years ago after assaulting a girl. He became a rogue. He wanted revenge on Alpha, and then the pack was attacked. I was kidnapped. Or should I say we conspired together. Our plan was to kill Daniel, but that didn't happen. That which came to save him. Miles started. That? Yeah. She was different. She was a part of this pack. When rogues were going to kidnap Daniel, she killed all of them single-handedly. She was not just a werewolf. She was something more. She killed all of my men. Hudson told me. Our plan failed. Pack is gone away by then, and they were stronger. It was impossible to stand against them. We had to cease the attacks and mission altogether. Alpha Wayne had grown to be a strong alpha, and we knew we couldn't destroy the pack. I nodded my head, soaking in all the information. So it started years ago. The feud was with Alpha Wayne and not Daniel. I wonder if he knows about it. So why did you start attacking the pack again? I asked him. I wanted to take revenge. The fire never died, and my anger was fueled when I came to know that Daniel had mated with my son's mate. Hudson growled. I was shocked. Cain is your son? I asked, even though I knew the answer yes. He's my son. He had always waited for his mate, but when he found her, she was already with son of my enemy. So we planned to take revenge on Moonstone Pack for taking away our happiness. Later, Shay teamed up with us. Mating bond can't be resisted that easily. With Luna of the Packet's side, it was easier to destroy it. Everything was going fine until you barged in. He spat at me. I just shrugged, not taking any offense. What is about your powers? I asked Miles. Your ability to see an other person or whatever it is. I'm a psychic. A werewolf psychic. Just like humans have. Miles told me, and I nodded in my head. So that explains it. You two were always against this pack. This poison was fed years ago, showing its effects in present. I comprehended. So what was your reaction when she was rejected by Daniel? It was a big shock to our plans. We had thought that she will strengthen bond with the pack members and destroy them eventually. We expected her to keep Osborne away from the pack. She had to destroy Daniel completely by drowning him in alcohol. Everything was going fine. But it all ended on that bastard's birthday. Hudson growled. I winced at his language even though I have heard worse in Werewolf World. Vampire Kingdom is stricter at the use of seer words. So what did you do with her? I ordered my wolves to kill her, but my son, my own son, came for her to fence her. That worthless girl. Hudson started coughing. I shook my head in dismay. So what are you planning now? I was going to contact other rogues. My own son left him and he took away several other wolves of mine. Most of them were killed, but there are other rogues in forest and they will come to destroy this pack and save me. I didn't bother to tell him that he didn't have anyone in his army. They all were dead. And I was such a fool to go in woods with my only Wilson. To my agent extraordinaire, Mythical Noble, heartfelt thanks for your unfailing enthusiasm. Ethan and Dave. He had a backup plan. There were many rogues. We could have been seriously outnumbered and captured. If it wasn't for Blood Devil, we could have been killed. He must be thinking I'm useless. At least I didn't receive any call from Vladimir about this yet. Most of the information was revealed. But there was one question. Do you know what was the lady who saved Daniel? No. But she was different. Her kind was different. Her blood was royal. And if she was mated to a werewolf, the heir of the royal blood was born in this pack. Miles said. My ears perked up. And that's what I'm searching. You know who is the heir? I asked, trying to sound not so curious now. I wanted to, but it was not easy. A child doesn't show many signs. But as they grow up, changes occur. How can you find out that one had royal blood? If they are grown up? I don't know. I didn't search about it more. I was disappointed, and it was hard not to show it on my face, but Miles and Hudson were too busy looking for a way out that they didn't pay any attention. Sorry to lock up you guys. But you both are not getting out. I told them with a smirk. Before you go, let me tell you that I was the one to kill your parents. They were really useless, sacrificing their lives to save the pack. Hudson said with a smirk. Hudson was crazy. Too bad Miles had to face the consequences too. I gave him a cold look. He was talking about Dad and Dave's mom. I'm allowed to take any decision regarding to them. I told the guards. These two old men should be dead in the next 5 minutes. Hudson and Miles tensed and shouted profanities at me as I walked out. Their voices died with them within the next 5 minutes. My phone started ringing as I made my way towards my room. I'm glad I didn't encounter with Daniel. I was too exhausted to bear his trouble. The screen flashed and no number. Confused, I slid my finger to green sign and pressed the gadget to my ear. Hello. I was expecting Vladimir to shout at me, but instead I heard a feminine voice. Luna, she said, Luna, with so much disgust. I was not surprised by her jealous act, but I was surprised she bothered to call me. From what I inferred from Hudson, she must be enjoying with her mate. Shay, nice to hear from you, I said sarcastically. I know, and it will be better when you hear from your mate, she said in a sickening sweet tone. I frowned and used my vampire speed to get to Daniel's room. All worse scenarios running inside my head. The room was empty. I'm sending you my location. Come and save your alpha. Luna, she spat the last word. I threw my phone against the wall in anger. Chapter 43, Saving Mate. Daniel's P. Oh, V. I wanted to see Sierra. Something felt wrong. My sixth sense told me that there is a trouble coming ahead. My first instinct was to search for Sierra. She was nowhere to be found. My feet carried me to her room, but then they changed their direction towards the dungeons. I wondered what was Sierra doing there. Maybe she was in trouble. That place is not for common people. Sierra don't have her powers. She can't be at that place. It's not safe for her. The thought of any danger on her made my pace go fast. I was running towards my destination, towards Sierra. I was too engrossed in my own thoughts that I didn't notice a large wolf heading in my direction. I only felt the impact of something slamming hard to my side and pinning me to ground. Before I could react, there was a pinch in my arm. Last thing I saw before darkness took over me was sinister Faye. Water was splashed all on me. The cold liquid drenched me completely. It was hard for me to breathe. I took a large gulp of water that burnt my lungs. When I opened my eyes, there was water all around me. Then I realized that I was underwater. I collected myself and flowed my arms and legs, pushing myself up. When I surfaced, I recognized the place. It was the same lake I had visited several times in past. It always looked so beautiful, but tonight it was a deadly place. What was I doing here? I didn't feel any connection to my wolf, as if we had been separated. I looked around. I didn't remember coming to the lake and then taking a dip in water. Something felt terribly wrong. Laughter echoed in the woods. A male and a female laughter. Startled, I looked for the source of sound. At the bank stood Shay with a cruel smile on her lips. The man had his arm on her shoulder. I had seen him before, but my brain refused to form a name. He seemed awfully familiar. Suddenly all those memories rushed to my head. I went to search for Sierra, and then someone attacked me. They injected something in my bloodstream and I blacked out. But I saw Shay. She was the one who did that tattoo, and I assume with the help of her companion. He was undoubtedly a rogue. But how did Shay know him? She was Luna, but she never took any interest in pack business. All she ever wanted was shopping and hanging out with her friends. Her mate was the only rogue she might know. My eyes widened. He was her mate. What was his name again? Kane. I mouthed the words. He smirked at me, knowing I recognized him. Sierra's POV with the speed I was running with. I was glad I didn't slam with any tree. Daniel was in danger, and fault is mine. How could I have forgotten Shay? She's Shay after all. I was standing alone in the dark forest. Nipping wind didn't have any effect on me. I looked around for any signs of living beings. There was swishing of wind and insect orchestra playing in background. My every step was like drum beat. Night sky was clear, was twinkling bright, but there was no sign of moon. It was new moon. Is that she? A mole voice asked, and I snapped head in the direction of sound. Two figures were standing near the tree. The male one leaned against it while female was clinging to his arm. Shay's mate looked like a gangster with his piercings and tattoos. He looked nowhere around the guy I saw in those photographs. He was different. So different. He had that wild look in his eyes that startled me. They were same eyes as that in photograph, except this pair had sinister glint in them. It was not enough to scare me, though. Shay looked no better. She'd had new lip ring and eyebrow ring. She was wearing leather jeans and a corset. Her hairs were in a bob cut. If I hadn't smelt her blood, I could have never recognized that she was Shay. Her eyes were crazy, and I knew she most definitely had lost her mind. Finally here, she was chewing on her chewing gum. My concern was Daniel. I couldn't see him anywhere. Even his scent was not in the air. Where had they kept him? Where's Daniel? I asked her coldly. She chuckled bitterly. Too eager to find your mate. She snarled at me. Don't worry, he's not dead yet. She had paused for dramatic effect, and I almost rolled my eyes at her childishness. She should stop watching crappy shows and instead spend her precious time watching spiritual shows. Be serious, Sarah. I scolded myself. You think it's funny? I could have said yes if she didn't have that mad look in her eyes. She had lost her mind. She was a psycho. It was so clearly visible. No, tell me, where's Daniel? I pressed, successfully distracting her from the coming fight. Let us show you your mate. She smirked at me heavily. Kane was next to me in a second. The mutt grabbed my hairs, his hand, and tugged at them. I winced in pain, and I could have sworn I heard a very familiar growl that made me freeze. But I couldn't think about it more because I was being dragged by my hairs. I thought he was going to pull my hairs off my head. I wanted to snap his neck, but decided against it. I had to save Daniel first. I walked with him, even though my pace matched his. He kept on pulling at my hairs and it hurt. Shay was walking ahead, swaying her dislocated hips, and her mate was watching her like the hungry wolf he was. The forest was dark and I found the same path. I had come here. It was the lake. Why were we going there? I noticed fire at some distance. My first thought was they were camping there, but when I took a closer look by my vampire vision, I saw Daniel hanging upside down. A tree and fire was blazing under him. I was brought to a halt by angry tug on my hairs and then thrown on ground carelessly. I slid good 3 feet before friction stopped me. Dust flew and painted my face in brown. But I was still shocked about Daniel's situation. The mud again tugged at my hair so that I was forced to look ahead, a few feet away where Daniel was hanging above his death. There was dried blood on his clothes, and his face was bruised. They must have tortured him before testing famous vampire technique on him. I'm a vampire, but even I won't do that. Look at him, Cain growled at my face in his ugly voice. Look at your mate. Do you want to watch him die or you want to save him? I wanted to look at him, but I couldn't because he was still holding my hairs. I will save him, I said through gritted teeth. My eyes fixed on Daniel. Cain laughed darkly. Shay joined him. Love is a fickle thing, Sarah. Even after what he did to you, you still want him. Shay taunted her. I smirked at her. I'm like your mate after all. Even after you were marked by another wolf and you willingly threw yourself to him. This pathetic lover still wants you. That earned me a slap on my face. I was so going to kill her. Don't you dare to say that. I like Cain. At least I didn't reject him as Daniel rejected you. And being the leech you are, you didn't accept his rejection, so you are pathetic here and not him. She snarled at me. I decided not to say anything against her. I will show her the right place after I saved Daniel. Leave him alone. She smirked at me. I wanted to slap that smirk off her face. Worse than she slapped me, but I restrained myself. Where you can do that, go save him. Before he dies. She simply allowed me. She must be thinking I was a human and I won't be able to do that. Well, she was wrong. Cain left me after pushing my head in dirt and went to her side. I stood on my feet and looked at Daniel. There was no problem with the task. If Daniel's life was not in danger, I could have been less pressurized. My memories went back to all those times when I wanted to kill Daniel, for the pain he had given me while having fun himself. At that moment I realized that I didn't want him to die and that I'd do anything to save him. I would give my life to save him. Was I in love? I didn't know answer about that, neither I intended to find out because everything was going to end. And Shay's rotten games were the first in line. I gave Shay a cold look, who smirked at me. The girl never plays fair, and I knew something was wrong with this game too. That she didn't know that I was a vampire. I could use it to full advantage of mine. I ran towards the tree from where Daniel was hanging upside down. I vowed to myself that Shay will be going to be at his place very soon. Fire was blazing hot. Daniel's face was red from heat. His body was getting hotter and hotter with every passing second. My hands clenched at my sides as I thought of a way to save him. I climbed up the tree with ease, not wanting to see Shay's astonished reaction. I untied the rope around his feet and caught him before he fell in furnace. My balance quavered because he was really heavy. With great difficulty, I lifted him with his feet. He was like conscious dead weight in my hands. After reaching the limit I could drag him up to, I forced my hands to throw him up like a heavy ball. I could only manage to hold his thighs before he could fall. I was sure I was going to save him. If he was not that heavy, it could have been easy for me. Tree started shaking and I had to hold the nearest branch to keep myself up. By the time Daniel was almost slipping from my sweaty hands, hot air had gone to my head, watering my eyes. Everything was blurry, but I was able to make out Cain shaking the tree vigorously. I couldn't go down and kill him as I wanted to because Daniel's life was still in my hands. But there was nothing much I could do. Also, the branch was not enough strong to accommodate both of our weights for long. With the shaking still continued, I tried to keep my hold on Daniel. A selfish part buried deep inside my head asked me to leave him to die after what he had done to me. Another part of me said that I cared for him too much to kill him like that, and I couldn't do it. And then I smelt it, the hope. Dave's scent mingled in air and I knew he was near. Only if I could hold him for a little longer. There was a sudden hard jerk as Cain struck the tree hand and I lost Daniel. Time stopped for me as I watched Daniel falling down to his death slowly. He couldn't die. And he didn't. Dave jumped over the fire in his wolf form and Daniel fell on his back, making me smile in relief. That was all I saw before there was a snap on the branch that was holding my weight and I felt myself falling down. Only there was no wolf to save me from fire. Chapter 40 for accepting the fate Sarah's P. O. V. I was falling towards my end. If it was water instead of fire, I could have been grateful, but no. It was fire. Vampires are not great fans of fire, and I'm one of them. This is going to be my end. Heat was increasing and the distance between life and death was decreasing. I was passing a bridge that would end everything for me at once. At least I managed to save this pack from rogues. Daniel will find his mate and he will be happy. Dave and Manny will be together. I know everyone is here, so they will most surely kill Shay and Kane. I just wish I was there to see the victory. This is end of my life now. Someone growled and I opened my eyes to find myself standing in fire. There was a bubble around it that prevented fire from entering inside and hurting me. I was standing erect, gazing in dark green orbs. My eyes almost watered at the thought that I was alive. Blood Devil had his hands on my back to hold my weight because I felt weak on my knees. I am still alive. I wondered incredulously. There was not even a single burn on my skin and fire was angry around the bubble, still holding to me. I walked out of fire. I followed him, clinging to his torso as if it was my lifeline. And truly he was. That was the second time I was so close to death, and it was the second time he saved me. I'm forever indebted to him. I owe him my life. And that's the reason that I'm always ready to do anything for him. When we were out of the blazing fire, the bubble around us disappeared. I lost hold on him and he too vanished from my side. I looked around and noticed that we had got out of the opposite side, where no one could see us. A wail of cry drew my attention. Manny was fighting in Dave's arms, crying out my name with her tear-stained cheeks. I had almost forgotten how it was for them. Stressing was not good for pregnant Manny, so I walked over to them and stopped when I was in line of their sight. Wilson was first to see me. "Sarah," he whispered with wide eyes. I smiled weakly at him because I was actually really tired and Kane's assault on my hairs had given me a headache. My eyes searched for him. I was going to rip every single hair from his ugly head. But all I had to see was a dead wolf who smelt Kane. To my agent extraordinaire, Madeline Nilben, heartfelt thanks for your unfailing patience, enthusiasm. Manny shouted, running to me. She tackled me, but I didn't fall down. It was really difficult for me to maintain my balance and took last ounce of energy from my body. I didn't want anything to happen to Manny and her pup. To my agent extraordinaire, Madeline Nilben, heartfelt thanks for your unfailing patience, enthusiasm. Dave's voice interrupted. I smiled at him. Manny was holding tight to me, seeing that she was not going to leave me any time soon. Dave hugged both of us. "Don't do that again." His voice broke as he spoke. I only nodded. I was so scared. Manny said in a weak voice. She wiped her tears and pulled away. Dave followed. "I'm fine," I told them. Manny slapped my arm. I gave her a look of disbelief. She was being too affectionate not a second ago, and suddenly she switched in Hulk mode. "How could you try to handle this all alone? You should have waited for everyone to come. But you have to do everything alone. You have to show your bravery even if it costs your life. You stupid girl." Manny yelled at me. I smiled at her. She hit my arm again. "What are you smiling at? You think it's funny. You scared me." I whipped smile off my face and nodded solemnly at her. She whacked my head. "Can't you say anything? After you pulled a stunt like that, you have nothing to say." I took a step away from her and stood behind Dave. "In the vampire Annie, I can save myself," I told her. "Pregnant she-wolf." "Yeah, that's why you fell in fire." Her face was red, but him still alive, unharmed. She puffed her cheeks in anger. I chuckled but stopped when she threw me a deadly glare. I survived fire, but who was going to save me from her anger? To my agent extraordinaire, Madeline Nilben, heartfelt thanks for your unfailing patience, enthusiasm. You should take rest now, Alpha Wayne instructed. I straightened myself and nodded. Everyone, go to your home and relax. We will meet tomorrow in arena, he announced. Everyone nodded. Where are Shay and her mate? I asked no one in particular. They are going to spend rest of their lives in dungeons. Dave informed me and I nodded, my head relieved to hear that. To my agent extraordinaire, mythical, heartfelt thanks for your unfailing patience, enthusiasm. You are coming with us, Manny said. I looked at Alpha Wayne. He nodded his head. Okay. I smiled and followed Dave and Manny to car. They both told me what to do and not to. I could only smile at them sadly. Happiness is always short-lived for me. I had mostly healed by the time we were at home. I went to my room. Vampires don't usually feel exhausted, but I think I'm a special case. Tomorrow I have to meet Alpha Wayne. He will do what he promised me to. I just hope Daniel is okay. Daniel's P.O.V. I can't believe I ever thought of her as the only girl in my life. I can't believe I chose her over Seer. I can't believe I mated with her. I can't believe that my stupidity. I was such a jerk. I am such a jerk. I can't see the difference between right and wrong. That girl. I was in love with that girl who tortured me and laughed at my helplessness. I chose her. I'm most disgusted at myself and her. I am the one to be blamed. The only thing I gave to Sarah was pain and she saved my life. I always wanted her out of my life and she saved me. I have to win her. I want her as my mate. I want only her. I want Sarah. Sarah's P.O.V. Let's go, Sarah. This is going to be a special day. Manny shouted. You are going to be declared as Daniel's mate in Luna of this pack today. How do you know that? I asked calmly with a glass of orange juice in my hand. We were in kitchen. Dave was reading morning newspaper. Just for reading. There was nothing of his business in that crap. Why would Alpha Wayne call everyone in arena? Of course you are going to be declared as Luna of the pack. Luna Sarah Winters, mate of Alpha Daniel Osborne. They are going to really love you, Sarah. You will be our queen then. She smirked at me. I rolled my eyes. Let's go, I muttered. After an hour, we were in an arena which was stacked with werewolves. There were some werewolf games and many wolves won, but I was not interested in any of them. Daniel's eyes would wander in my direction several times. Mostly, I ignored him. Whenever our eyes met, he smiled at me. I didn't return his smile. When the games were over, Alpha Wayne made an announcement. Manny was jumping on her seat with excitement. Hormones had really messed her up. He addressed pack members and started. I am here to make a special announcement today. Everyone cheered. We all know that there have been rogue attacks on our pack in the last few months. Many wolves were captured and others were killed. But we have taken revenge for everyone who died by the hands of those rogues. The rogue community who attacked this pack are finally eliminated. There were wars again. We are going to honor the members of our pack who played a very important role in saving this pack. Everyone clapped. Beta Dave Winters, Wilson Carter, Eric Tungsten, Ethan Graham, and why you are Alpha Daniel Osborne. Everyone cheered with claps. Daniel's fans shouted his name. He was too busy to bask in his own popularity that he didn't miss the incredulous look on his friends' faces. They exchanged looks and looked at me. I shook my head. I knew what was going on inside their heads, but I didn't really want it. I had already told Alpha Wayne not to mention my name, and I guess Daniel was told about that too. So everyone, celebrate our complete freedom. Alpha Wayne shouted, and everyone was ushered away from podium. This time, Daniel was really confused. We were in a room which included Dave, Manny, Daniel, Alpha Wayne and me. Dad, I thought you were going to announce that Sarah is my mate. Daniel winced. I guess he was not aware of my wishes then. She is not, Alpha Wayne said flatly. He was startled and so were Dave and Manny. What? But Dad, Daniel, we should talk while Alpha Wayne explained this to Dave and Manny. I interrupted him. But, let's go. He nodded and followed me out of the room. To my agent extraordinaire, mythical, heartfelt thanks for your unfailing patience, enthusiasm. I turned around to face him. Listen, Anya. It's time to finally accept it. I told him. Accept what? He asked, confused. I licked my lower lip, ready to say it. His eyes dipped to my lips and eyes darkened. Listen to me carefully, Daniel, because I'm going to say it only once. He just stared at me. I, Sierra Winters, accept your rejection. I told him I could do that since he never accepted me after rejection. His eyes widened. It was like a thump and Daniel winced. There was a slight pain in my heart that it was almost unapatable. To my agent extraordinaire, mythical, can't that thanks for your unfailing patience, enthusiasm. He pleaded with his eyes. No, Daniel. I'm leaving. I told him. And you will find another mate who will keep you happy. We are just not meant to be together. No, Sierra. Don't do this to me. He pleaded. I don't love you, Daniel. And I will never love you. Though I forgive for what you did, I said and started walking away from him. Sierra, he cried out, but I didn't stop. My feet carried me to the room. When I entered, Manny was in tears and Dave looked like he couldn't contain it any longer. To my agent extraordinaire, mythical, heartfelt thanks for your unfailing patience, enthusiasm. Daniel called from behind me. I entered the room, leaving it on Alpha Wayne to handle them. You are leaving, Manny said with a broken voice. I nodded at her. Why? Because I have someone else to live for. Someone I love. I looked at Daniel when I said the last sentence. It was a complete lie, but I had to say it or else they won't let me leave. I couldn't tell them the truth, because then they'd think I'm stepping on thorns. And I was. Daniel's face broke as I said that. Sierra, don't do this. He pleaded. Tears from his eyes escaped. Son, you will find another mate. And if Sierra is happy with a vampire, she can stay with him. Alpha Wayne told Daniel. Vampire? Daniel asked, bemused. Yes, Sierra is a vampire. And she has found a vampire she wants to be with, he told Daniel. It was then I noticed that my scent didn't change. I smelt exactly what I smelt before. Or a little different, but I most definitely didn't smell like a vampire. But she is my mate. She is not. She just accepted your rejection, and your mate with her was not enough strong. You two could have never lasted long. No. You loved Shade, but eventually you left her. You will leave Sierra to one day when you find your mate. Your fate is now woven with another female. Sierra is not longer a part of your life, no. Daniel shouted, startling all of us. She is mine. Only mine. With those words, he ran out of the room. Silence filled the room as our eyes were still on the door. Are you lying again? Dave asked again. I frowned at him. What? Last time you left a letter saying you have found your mate and he was a rogue. But there was no rogue. I remember that letter. It was a lie. A complete lie which I left thinking they won't search for about me. This time, I'm not. Even though I was lying. I don't believe you. I want to meet him. Dave said. What? It's not possible. My eyes widened. Why, he narrowed his eyes at me. Because he is a vampire. If werewolves smell him, he will be dead. I can't risk his life. I want to meet him. Out of the territory. He argued. You will be dead then. I want to meet him. That can't happen. I at least want to talk to him. Call him now. I never thought my brother could be that prying. He can smell suspicion in air now. To my agent extraordinaire, mythical, heartfelt thanks for your unfailing patience, enthusiasm. It was the same person who saved you from fire, Alpha Wayne said. His eyes urged me to agree with him. Did they see Blood Devil there? Yes, he was there. I nodded. Wait. That man who jumped in fire right after you is the one you love. Dave asked and I nodded my head. He smiled at me. Then I'm okay with him. If he can jump in fire to save your life, he can do anything for you. I'm so glad. You saw him. I inquired. Not clearly, but there was another figure who jumped into fire after you fell. There was only a single flash of him and then he was gone. Where was he anyway? He left right after that. Now he's waiting for me. I really love him, Dave. Please. I'm happy with him. I understand your situation with Daniel. As much as I don't want you to leave, I want you to be happy. So can I go? I asked hopefully. Yeah. But you will call me. I will. And don't forget me, she said through tears. She engulfed me and a bone-crushing hug and started crying. I tried to control my tears. She told me what to do and what not to. I just listened to her. Goodbye. I told her when Alpha Wayne said that it was time to leave and that a car was waiting for me outside. It was a tearful goodbye from my brother and my best friend. I'm really going to miss them. I've already shown where Shay and Cain belong to hell. I killed them when no one was around. Cain had paid for his mistakes with every scream that left his mouth while I was killing me. When it was only me and Alpha Wayne in the room, the atmosphere again turned tense. I did what you asked. Rogues are dead. Your son is safe. Now you have to fulfill your part of deal. I told him. Oh yeah. He smirked at me. I have to tell you who the heir is. The main reason you were in this pack for. Yes, so will you please tell me? To my agent extraordinaire, Madeleine Nilban. Heartfelt thanks for your unfailing patience, enthusiasm. That's what I had promised you. Did you have any guess of your own? He asked, raising his eyebrow. I shook my head. Whole pack was my suspicion. I didn't know who exactly was the person I came searching for in this pack. Shame, Syrah. An intelligent girl like you couldn't find answer of this simple question. He shook his head. Will you please tell me already? I gritted my teeth. I wanted to know who the person was. I just hoped it was neither Manny nor Dave. I can't take any of them to Blood Devil knowing the person is going to have really brutal fate. Okay, impatient Syrah. So let me tell you who the person actually is. He watched me for my reaction. It's you, Syrah. You are the heir.